What's going on, guys? Got another instant reaction. Make sure you click that subscribe button to follow the Connor and Mark show alongside Mark Rogers. As usual, I'm Connor Gaber, recapping the Sweet 16 today here, recording Sunday night. Mark, Sweet 16 action, a lot of exciting games today. What stood out to you?
Dude, I was debating that Alabama UCLA may have been the best game of this tournament, and
Yeah.
I only say that. Obviously, the score does not indicate that. But at half they were down by 11, came back 11-0, outscored them in the second half to tie it up, and then obviously down the stretch that game was so back and forth, and obviously the buzzer beating shot to send it to overtime, but. I mean, like you said, these games were action packed. The Florida State game kind of got away from them. Michigan took it over, looked like a good team. Some of these more higher seeds were coming to the forefront, obviously, in Baylor against Villanova and Houston against Syracuse, Arkansas against Oral Roberts. So we saw a lot less upsets, but still very intense and entertaining games at that. And obviously, right now recording, we have Oregon and USC at half. 41-26. So it looks like USC again wasn't really looking at this team real big coming in, and they're making a big splash, looking like they're probably going to advance to the Elite Eight.
Yeah, starting with Saturday, you picked Oregon State versus Loyola Chicago, and you turned out to be right, 65-58. Oregon State, 12 seed, is moving on to the Elite Eight. That's obviously a shocker, but I picked Syracuse. I believe I picked the money line straight up against Houston, and they disappointed big. Houston came out big and beat the Cuse 62-46. And then we alluded to Villanova, obviously playing Baylor, the number one seed. In the first half, looked very good against Baylor Bears, who was a very good team and one of the favorites to win a national title. But in the second half, it was a different story, and Baylor ultimately won the game 62-51. And then Arkansas narrowly beats the 15 seed Oral Roberts, going on a miracle run, but it came just short as Arkansas beat Oral Roberts 72-70 in today's game. Obviously, like we alluded to, we are at halftime with USC. Oregon was currently up USC 41, Oregon 26. But, some big games earlier, starting with Gonzaga looking dominant like usual the whole tournament, 83-65. I picked the under that game. It hit. So I'm finally back on the W board with the betting. And then Michigan. No, what are you going to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say real quick, I can't believe we're, I don't know, a few minutes into this already, and we haven't mentioned the locks of the day. Both of us did.
I know.
Yeah. And like you said, the under 158.5 looked a little scary in the beginning. Gonzaga really heated up in those first 5 minutes. I'm pretty sure they put up close to 25 points in the first 5 minutes of the game. And then myself taking Michigan over Florida State. That was an absolute rout, 76-58, like I said. But just wanted to point that out because we got
to point out our winnings, Mark.
that was definitely big for us, and like I know we'll mention here at the end of the show, but definitely we'll be back tomorrow as well as Tuesday, and then action coming up next week. So definitely follow us on the locks of the day.
Yeah, you got to keep you up. I mean, listen, I was struggling early on before, but we recognize our wins and we ignore our losses. So Gonzaga, they look dominant, and they, at this point of the tournament, they're probably the favorite to win it. But moving on to the other games, obviously you alluded to Alabama, UCLA, a big three at the end of regulation for Alabama to tie it going into overtime, but they couldn't hang on as UCLA won by 10, 88-78, and they're going to move on to the Elite Eight, the 11th seed, a play-in team, a Final Four in team. Is finding themselves in Elite Eight, so that's an exciting matchup. So starting for tomorrow's matchups, obviously the starting for the Elite Eight, it's going to be Houston number 2 against the number 12 Oregon State, and then number 1 Baylor against Arkansas number 3. So before we get into those games, Mark, before we leave off the topic of the Sweet 16, just what has stood out to you, and when we're moving forward this tournament, who are the most dangerous teams heading into the Elite Eight?
Yeah, I mean, in the first round, we had 9 upsets. Second round, we had 5, and now 2. So it's really starting to show that these higher seed teams, they are for real. And Baylor really, really illustrated that heavily yesterday, going into the half down by 9 to a really well-run Villanova team. But, like I mentioned on the last show or on the last reaction, I thought that Nova's depth would beat them, down the stretch, and it proved that way with Baylor. Obviously, just having a very deep team and a very experienced team at that, and with Villanova not having Gillespie, that definitely showed and hurt them. But other than that, I mean, the Oregon State game, I just keep believing in this team. I think, from the beginning of the year, no one did. Obviously, being ranked to finish last in the Pac-12 and winning it all. So they're for real. This Loyola team actually did scare me when I when I did make that pick, because they were playing really well coming into this as well. So, just moving over to tomorrow, and I guess we can transition into this topic now. I mean, my game to watch tomorrow is obviously going to be Oregon State, Houston.
Yeah,
Two really good teams and defensive teams at
very
that.
defensive, good teams.
I don't have the over under, but I would probably
It's
recommend.
it's 129.
Okay, wow. So obviously, like I said, two very good defensive teams, and Vegas knows that at 130 is a pretty low under.
When it's that low, I like to go over. But like you said, they're very good defensively. So like at this point, I don't know if I'm comfortable even betting the over. I mean, it's so low that you might as well do it because the odds of it probably hitting are pretty high. But I mean, like you said, Houston's really good defensively. Or it's Charles Barkley said on a post game out to Oregon State one, like they're going up against Houston, and these are probably the two best defensive teams in still in the tournament. So it's gonna be a really tight, defensive game. It's gonna be exciting to watch.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm definitely looking at the spread on this game for my lock of the day tomorrow. So if you do see this, as we're gonna drop it tonight before we release these tomorrow, that's my play of the day. But shifting over to you, Connor. I mean, these and the other game I do want to talk about. Obviously, I don't want to dive too deep into it because it's not set in stone yet. But if USC holds on and they go up against Gonzaga, I think USC with the Mobley brothers, I think they're one of the most dangerous teams in this tournament right now, and I think they'll give Gonzaga a run for their money for sure.
Well, the Baylor Arkansas game is pretty interesting. As opening up right now, Baylor is favored by 7.5 points. I don't know. Arkansas barely beat Oral Roberts. I know Oral Roberts was on a miracle run, but I don't know. I'm liking Baylor in the 7.5 at this point. I think Baylor is a really good team, and we saw it in the second half against Villanova. When they're on and they turn it on and they're ready to go and they're hot, they're hard to stop. So I think Arkansas is a pretty good team. I think they'll probably give Baylor a run, but I think it's going to be similar to the Villanova game. I think it's going to be pretty close around halftime. Then when the second half hits, I think the Bears are going to start pulling away and probably end up winning that game, and which is surprising because going into this tournament, Baylor was kind of on a streaky team and they weren't really going, they weren't hot going into this tournament, which is ideal for a team to make a run, especially in March. But Baylor, I think right now they're heating up at the right time. They look good, and the 7.5 looks pretty good. I think Baylor wins by 8, and I think they find themselves in a Final Four.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. And just looking at some of these last games here by Arkansas, obviously the most recent one, Oral Roberts, they win by 2. Then you have Texas Tech. They won that one in a real down-to-the-wire game. They only won that by 2. Obviously, Colgate was more of a spread about, I believe they won by 16. However, they were struggling a little bit in that game. And to go back to the last game in the SEC tournament, they got beat 78-71 by LSU. So definitely looking by those numbers, I do agree. I think Baylor -7 would be the play here. Just again, Baylor is proven that they are a winning team. Obviously skidding into this tournament, if you will, to their standards, but they've turned it up and they look like the real deal heading down here in the latter part of the tournament.
Yeah, before we wrap it up, I do want to head into 2 points here. If you are not only just a Westchester student, but live in the Philadelphia area, I do, would appreciate at this point, because we are Westchester students and we've been to Jake's Bar a lot. But as of right now, they currently stand in the Final Four of top bars in America under the Barstool Elite 64 bracket. They're in the Final Four right now, going up against ECU. So you can make sure you go on Twitter and vote for Jake's Bars, hashtag Best Bar Jake's PA. And also you can buy t-shirts on barstool.com, the Jake's Bar t-shirts. Also, I feel like you can buy something, I forget what it's called. It's like a brand of a drink or something like that Barstool sells. You can also get some extra votes there as well. But make sure if you're voting on Twitter, Best Bar Jake's Bar. One of my favorite bars in Westchester. Mark, I know it's one of your favorites as well. So obviously got to show the home support here for Westchester as 2 Golden Rams would usually. So
most definitely. I did make a tweet out, but I know it's a new round, so we have to re-vote again, correct?
Yeah. So okay. I believe voting ends tomorrow. It started Saturday. So it's still underway now, but I believe it ends tomorrow. So
all right. You heard the man.
Also, Saturday, you want to talk about what we're going to be expecting for WCHE, our live show Saturdays from 10 to 11?
Yeah, so Saturday, obviously with the Final Four coming up, we are real quick. I just want to touch on before we move too far. We are going to do another instant reaction on Tuesday night after the
Yeah.
Elite Eight. So we'll definitely have updates there. But for the Final Four coming up on Saturday, on our radio show, obviously 10 to 11, we're going to have Jeff Nadeau. He's going to come on, give us some good picks on the Final Four, talk some games, maybe some NBA, some NHL. So you'll definitely want to tune in for that. Professional sports better. So he's got some great knowledge, some great intel. Again, Jeff Nadeau joining the show from 10:30 to about 10:40, somewhere in that range. So definitely check us out. It's going to be a great episode. And man, this is one of the best times of the year with the tournament coming back. Obviously, last year we didn't get this experience, but so much action. And I know we were talking before the show, finding out that the games come on Monday, Tuesday, and then Saturday, and then Monday again. So a lot of basketball coming up here in the next week. But for now, I'm definitely going to roll with Oregon State tomorrow against Houston. And definitely stay tuned for more picks and more instant reactions.
You're riding Oregon State, dude. You're loving it. You're on the train.
Dude, I mean, I said before the tournament that they were my sleeper team. So I'm definitely staying true. The money line does scare me a little because like we talked about, the Houston Cougars are a great defensive team and defensive rebounding team. I mean, they were controlling the boards against Syracuse. So definitely stay tuned. A lot of information, a lot of reactions, and a whole lot of updates coming from the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I'll be riding Bears 7.5 as it currently stands right now. Maybe it'll change tomorrow. But you listen to the Connor Marks Show. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page as well as follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Connor Marks Show. We'll see you guys again.